Ever wondered why climbing indoors on a MoonBoard can feel so different from outdoor bouldering? As someone who's sent V14 outdoors, why does the MoonBoard give me such a hard time? In today's video, I'm taking you behind the scenes in a climbing training session on the MoonBoard. I'll show you how I approach the board and highlight some of the struggles I face, even with my experience on hard outdoor problems. With years of climbing experience and over 150 double-digit outdoor boulders in my logbook, it's easy to think I should have similar success on the MoonBoard. But honestly, it's not that straightforward. The holds, the technique, the mindset, there's just something about the board that makes it feel very different from climbing on real rock. In this video, I'll break down why I struggle on the MoonBoard despite my experience, and I'll explain how indoor MoonBoard training differs from outdoor bouldering. You'll get a first-hand look at what makes it harder even when I'm climbing well below my max grade. Stick around as I dive into my unfiltered MoonBoard struggles and explain how I approach the training on the board. Before we get too far into today's session, I thought it might be nice to give you guys a perspective of my current climbing level. If we're talking about outdoor bouldering, the hardest thing I've done this season is an 8B boulder that I put up last fall in Andorra. Within the last 2 months, I've also completed an 8A plus and an 8A, and I'm currently projecting 2 more 8Bs and an 8A plus, which I'm hoping to finish up by the end of the season. The hardest thing that I've flashed recently was a 7B plus, which I flashed last weekend. Now flipping back over to the MoonBoard. Where we live, we don't have a whole lot of rock gyms, but we do have a public gymnasium that has a 2016 MoonBoard kit, and the MoonBoard kit that we've got here behind me today is the 2019 kit. Taking a look at my logbook from the 2016 MoonBoard, you'll notice that I've climbed a couple of 7C pluses, a handful of 7Cs, but typically I'm in the 7A plus to 7B plus range. Yesterday, I actually climbed on the 2016 MoonBoard, and I was able to successfully send a 7C. And here's my logbook from the 2019 MoonBoard. I typically struggle on this MoonBoard setup a little bit more than the 2016 MoonBoard. My highest max grade on the 2019 kit is a 7C, but as you can see, I'm typically between the 7A plus and 7B range. The goal of today's climbing training session here on the MoonBoard is not to get myself wrapped up and lost in a project that's going to take me months on end to finish, but I'm also not looking for a large volume day where I'm completing climbs that are far below my max red level. So here's how we're going to break down today's session. I'll typically start with 3 to 4 warm-up boulders ranging from 6A plus, the easiest grade on this MoonBoard kit, and going up to 6C plus. Once I notice that the fingers are starting to fire off those crimps, I'll select one 7A or 7A plus. This is something that I like doing in most of my MoonBoarding sessions because it kind of gets me pumped and the motivation flowing for the entire session. Then I'll begin working towards climbs at my max red point level. In an ideal world, I'm looking for climbs that are going to challenge me physically and climbs I'm not going to be able to do on my first flash go. If that happens, that's great, but what I'm really looking for is a climb that's going to take me multiple tries to figure out the moves, and I can piece together either by the end of today's session, the first session that I try them, or a climb that I can then save in a list of projects to try in another day, and I can complete between 1 and 3 days. Once I find a climb that's suitable for me, I'll begin working on this climb for anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how successful I am, and then I will move on, regardless whether I have finished it or not. Fingers are feeling good today to start off. All right, let's crank up the difficulty a little bit. This is Stretchy Pants 7C benchmark. Bad go. I want to try that big dynamic move that I just fell on again because I think that's going to be the crux of the problem. I need to match my hands on this pinch and do a big move up with my left hand to another semi-good slopey hold. So here's where we're going to encounter my first problem with the MoonBoard, one of my biggest struggles that I have, and I think that boils down to the difference in hold types that we have both for our hands and feet here on the MoonBoard and what we see for outdoor bouldering. Let's take a look at the 8B I put up last fall in Andorra called Clan de los Charlines. This thing is comparable to a MoonBoard in the sense that it's also on a 40-degree overhang, but right off the bat as we work into this gas stone move, we already have our first major difference, and that being in the friction-dependent feet. They are terrible smears that you're trusting won't pop as you grab an awful right-hand undercling before going into two more terribly awful right-hand crystals. Now I've entered the 7A Plus sand start section of the boulder. These handholds are a little bit more similar to what we'd find on a MoonBoard before making a MoonBoard style jump to the lip. The boulder's done at this point, so I can celebrate as I've got a huge jug and do a simple top out. Flipping back to the 7C that we're working right now on the MoonBoard, I think it's interesting to notice that the hand sizes that I'm working on are in general much larger than any of the hand sizes that I had on that boulder we just watched outdoors. Here we've got another very large hold, and then the footholds are also significantly larger. This thing, you can put your foot on just about anywhere that you want to and it's not going to go. I typically don't struggle with maintaining foot tension, so with these larger handholds and footholds, what usually ends up happening in my context is that I find the moves to be much larger and reachier. Me being a static sloth, that means I get shut down pretty often. I think if I do this move, I will definitely stick the last move. So we're going to focus my next few efforts on this reachy dynamic move. If I'm able to do it, we'll give it some sin goes. If not, we'll switch boulders. Oh. Whoa! Oh, that was sick. I was not expecting to stick the crux move with that. I had made a small little change that I didn't think was going to work for me. I put my right hand into a full crimp instead of leaving it as a pinch, and I think that allowed me to just give a little bit more pull at the last moment and stick the last move. Let's give it a few sin burns. I'm back to my diving. We've moved on. This is going to be max red point boulder number 2 of the session. I was really happy with the first one that we tried today. I wasn't able to send it. I got a little bit too gassed out there at the end and I already spent enough time on it. But on a positive note, I was able to stick that crux move, so that is definitely a problem that I have saved into my list of projects that I'll come back to the next time I'm on this MoonBoard. This problem is called Burden of Dweems. This is not a benchmark problem, but I did choose this problem because I think it's going to be a little bit more of my style with smaller holds and less dynamic moves. I was not expecting this left-hand hold to be so awkward to grab, and it felt really desperate as I was going to that move. I knew I was just going to pop off, and I was thinking I was going to slam onto my back. Ooh! I was not expecting that last move to be so jumpy. We'll give it a rest, we'll try that one more time, but that might be a little bit of a heartbreaker last move. Another thing that I really struggle with when comparing climbing on the MoonBoard to outdoor bouldering is just the general shift in mindset that's needed. A lot of the boulders that we find here on the MoonBoard have very awkward moves and don't have a whole lot of workaround solutions. So this creates this kind of necessity to have a try hard attitude even when you're feeling off balanced and everything's just desperate. Whereas when you're climbing outdoors, there often are intermediate holds, worse footholds, better footholds, and a lot more solutions that you can explore to find different beta options and what works for you as a climber. This is actually something that I find to be beneficial when going back outdoors, because here on the MoonBoard, I do a much better job of giving my all on that very first flash go and accepting that I probably won't feel good, whereas on outdoor problems, I like to have a sensation that everything's perfect, everything's going well. Today I'm actually having pretty good luck finding boulders that are suitable for me, where I'm having success, I'm able to do the moves, but I will admit that it's really frustrating to come to the climbing gym some days and to be sitting here swiping on your phone, and you end up passing an hour, 2 hours on the MoonBoard and you feel like you haven't found a single problem that works well. Yeah, that does happen outside sometimes, where you walk around a crag and you're trying different boulders and nothing really works. But on the flip side, I find that to be a lot more fun in terms of just the adventure, where you're exploring what's out there new. Whereas here, you sit under a board and you're looking on your phone, and at the end of this session, it's like, what have I accomplished today?
Alex complains a lot. Just eat bread and climb.
Stuck the last move. Let's give this guy some sunburns. That really was an awful punt. That was definitely a little glimpse of some unfiltered struggle bus and frustrations on that last climb. But considering that last fall, we're going to take that as a sign that it's time to leave it. We're a little bit crunched on time, so we're going to do one final boulder for this session. This is a 7A+ benchmark called Full Swing, set by Koala Climb. I specifically chose this boulder for a certain reason, which I think you guys are going to see in a moment. I want to try this last move because that's what I'm really worried about. I think it's a pogo. Maybe? Kind of felt doable from first glance. Whoa! So if you haven't guessed it by now, the reason that I chose this boulder was to emphasize the fact that the climbing techniques on a MoonBoard are very different than those needed for outdoor bouldering. We saw that right away with the first hand-foot match. I'm not really good at these because we don't find them too often outdoors. Even when we do find a hand-foot match, you can usually work around them by using lower feet or feet to the sides. Then the second one being that last move, which we call a pogo. A pogo is something that I struggle with because it is specific to climbing on a board or a modern comp style. This is something I don't practice a lot, so I get shut down all the time. I don't think that I've ever seen a pogo move on an outdoor climb. If you've found a pogo on an outdoor boulder, definitely tell me about that in the comments below. Ooh, got him. I did a lot better job on that try with this first move by, instead of trying to get my foot and doing a smear here, I used the jib and got a little bit more motion in that first swing. That's a wrap for today's climbing training session. Despite the struggles, I still think that there's a lot that I can learn between the differences between training on a MoonBoard and outdoor bouldering. If you ever find yourself getting frustrated while climbing on the MoonBoard, my one piece of advice is this: use it as a training tool to track your progress and for having fun with friends, but avoid getting too caught up in the numbers. We'll see you guys in the next video.